When Lenora told me I was not half the woman her mother-in-law was, something in me finally stopped bending. I felt it quiet, sharp, final. So I pushed my chair back and said the sentence I had swallowed for 4 long years. Then she can start paying your rent. Lenora's face lost every bit of confidence she had walked in with. Graham Hayes, my son-in-law, froze with his fork halfway to his mouth. For a heartbeat. No one breathed. Rent. Lenora whispered. What rent? She should not have asked that. She should have let the words hang in the air and die there. But she looked at me like she still believed she controlled the story, and something inside me rose to meet her. I leaned my palms on the table, steadying myself. I am 72 years old, and my name is Marietta Clark. I have been a widow for 7 years. A mother for 46. And for the last 4 of those years, I have been the person quietly keeping my daughter's life from falling apart. I never asked for praise. I never even asked for acknowledgement. I simply paid the overdue rent each month because Lenora begged me to help her just this once, and because Graham could not bear to tell his own mother that they were drowning. But that night, listening to my daughter compare me to Beatrice Hayes, the woman she had decided should have been her mother. Instead, I felt the weight of every silent sacrifice pressing against my ribs. Graham cleared his throat first. Marietta. I thought we agreed. No. I said, you two agreed to keep me quiet. Lenora stared at me like she was seeing someone unfamiliar. Mom, you're being dramatic. Am I? My voice did not rise. It did not need to. 4 years of payments. Every single month. And you want to pretend it never happened. The room felt small enough to choke us. But I did not shrink this time. I pushed my chair fully back and stood. The truth was already out. The rest of it was coming. And once it arrived, none of us would be able to go back. I never meant to pay Lenora's rent forever, only long enough to keep my grandchildren off the street. That was the promise I made to myself the night everything started. Back then, I lived quietly in my little duplex in the Selwood Moreland neighborhood of Portland. My widow's pension covered just enough groceries, medication, a small emergency fund I protected, the way some people protect heirlooms. I stretched every dollar the way my own mother once did during the years when we did not know if the electricity would hold through the winter. One evening, 4 years ago, Lenora called me. Her voice shook before she even said my name. Mom, we got an eviction notice. Graham did not want me to tell you. Please help us. Just this once. I remember gripping the edge of my kitchen counter. She was terrified, breathless, embarrassed. Graham stood behind her when I arrived at their apartment, shoulders tight, face red. He handed me the paper without looking at me. I should have handled it. He muttered, Beatrice thinks we overspend. Lenora glared at him. This is not about your mother right now. They were both unraveling, and I felt that old guilt crawl up my spine, memories of my childhood, my parents scraping coins together. The shame of people knowing we could not keep our own roof. I could not let Lenora feel that same humiliation. I will pay it. I told them, just this once. Lenora broke down crying. Graham exhaled, relieved but wordless. But the next month came, and then the month after that. Each time, Lenora said, just this once, Mom? Graham apologized in hushed tones. Beatrice sent messages like, you have such a comforting presence for them. Marietta, it must feel good to still be needed. I turned on monthly autopay so I would not have to watch them crumble again. It felt protective at first. Necessary. Motherly. But 4 years slipped by, and no one mentioned the payments unless they needed something. I carried the weight alone, telling myself it was love. Yet love had begun to feel dangerously close to disappearing altogether. At what point does helping become enabling? And when does enabling become erasure? Lenora did not just admire Beatrice, she wanted to be remade by her. I first noticed it in small ways. Lenora began correcting the way she spoke, smoothing out the slang she grew up with in our little duplex on Spokane Street. She started wearing colors she once hated because Beatrice called them timeless. She made sideways comments about her childhood, as if the years I spent juggling 3 jobs were something she needed to rise above, instead of something that kept her fed and housed. One afternoon, I arrived early to pick up my grandchildren. Beatrice stood beside Lenora in the kitchen, adjusting a necklace around my daughter's throat. "You were meant for more refined circles." "Dear," Beatrice said softly, "some women are, some simply are not." She glanced at me, then sweet smile, sharp eyes before turning back to Lenora. Lenora tilted her chin. "Beatrice says my upbringing held me back. She says I have potential I never tapped into." I tried to keep my voice steady. "You were raised with enough love and discipline to walk into any room." Beatrice chuckled politely. "Love is wonderful, Marietta, but opportunities are what truly shape a person." Lenora absorbed every word like gospel. It only worsened from there. She told friends she grew up in modest circumstances, as if that modesty were a stain she was determined to scrub clean. She boasted that Beatrice taught her proper hosting, even though she once learned those same things from the women at our old church potlucks. She started correcting me in front of my own grandchildren, my pronunciation, my cooking, even the way I folded laundry. One evening, when I stopped by with groceries, Lenora looked me over and said, "Beatrice says I should surround myself with women who inspire me." Her tone suggested clearly who she believed did not qualify. I stood there, grocery bag pressing against my hip, feeling a slow ache spread through my chest. This was not admiration anymore. It was abandonment disguised as aspiration, and I could already feel the place I once held in my daughter's life slipping toward someone else's hands. The night she compared me to Beatrice was not sudden. It was simply the first time I refused to shrink. Lenora sat straighter than usual, shoulders pulled back like she had practiced something in the mirror. Beatrice had joined us for dinner, wearing that calm, polished smile she used whenever she wanted to appear harmless. Graham barely spoke, which told me he already knew the direction the conversation was heading. "Beatrice is presenting at a charity board meeting next week," Lenora announced. "They trust her with real leadership. She is everything I aspire to be." I kept my hands folded in my lap. "You have your own strengths." "Lenora," she barely looked at me. "Beatrice says strong women learn from stronger ones." Beatrice touched her arm lightly. "You exaggerate. Dear, I simply encourage what is already in you." Then Lenora delivered the sentence she had been waiting to say. "You're not half the woman she is." "Mom." The room tightened around me. I felt years of unspoken words shift in my chest, asking to be let out. Beatrice's expression flickered for just a breath surprise, then that familiar condescension. Graham cleared his throat. "Maybe we should—" "No," Lenora cut in. "Mom needs to hear this." So I pushed my chair back. Slow and steady. "If Beatrice is the woman you want to measure me against," I said, "then she can start paying your rent." Graham's fork clattered to the plate, his face drained. "Marietta, we agreed this stays private." Beatrice blinked. "Rent." "What rent?" Lenora shook her head quickly. "Mom is twisting things. You know how she gets when she feels judged." I kept my voice level. 4 years. Lenora. Every month. And you stood here comparing me to a woman who has never lifted a finger for you. Lenora opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out. The pattern had cracked. The silence they depended on was gone. And they felt it before I even stood up from my chair. The moment I canceled the auto payment, the room felt bigger than my daughter had allowed it to be in years. My cursor hovered over the confirmation box, my hand trembling. 4 years of monthly withdrawals, 4 years of saving them from eviction notices, past due statements, and frantic midnight calls. I pressed confirm, and the payment vanished from the schedule. Fear hit first sharp, familiar, almost instinctive. Then, just beneath it, something lighter. Freedom. Quiet, but undeniable. Hours passed. Lenora did not call. Graham did not text. Not a single message of apology or gratitude. Only silence. The kind of silence that tells you people are waiting to see if you will correct your own rebellion. By evening, my phone buzzed. A message from Beatrice. Marietta, dear. I heard there was a mix-up with some financial matters. I'm sure it's simply a misunderstanding. Let me know if you need help staying organized at your age. Polite words. Cruel framing. My age weaponized with a smile. I typed nothing back. The next morning, while I stepped outside to collect my mail, my neighbor, Mrs. Alden, leaned over the railing between our porches. She had lived beside me for more than 12 years and noticed everything without trying. I ran into Lenora yesterday. She said she looked proud as a peacock, telling folks that Beatrice kept them afloat during hard times. Her voice held confusion. Strange, since I know who has been tightening her own belt these past years. My chest tightened, but I kept my voice steady. People say what makes them feel safest. Mrs. Alden nodded, but her eyes stayed on me a moment longer, as if she sensed a fault line forming under all of us. Inside, I set my phone face down on the table. The cancellation was done. My part in their silent arrangement had ended. And somewhere between fear and relief, I felt the first rumblings of a storm none of them believed I could create. I was not angry when I saw the banner. I was tired in a way that sits in the bones. It was Mrs. Alden who sent the photo. My phone buzzed, and her message appeared beneath it. Thought you should see this. Across the porch of Lenora and Graham's rental house hung a long white banner with bold letters. Thank you, Beatrice, for helping us stay afloat. I stared at it until the words blurred. 4 years of payments. 4 years of choosing what bill to delay so I could save my daughter from eviction. And now my effort had been handed to another woman as casually as a birthday card. Mrs. Alden sent a second message. I know the truth. Marietta. I typed only one word back, thank you. Inside, I walked to my small desk and pulled out the folder I had kept tucked away. I gathered every bank statement, every rent confirmation, every message from Lenora that began with Mom. Please. Just this once. The stack was thick enough to make the drawer stick when I tried to close it. Later that afternoon, I met my friend, Dottie Ruiz, at the community center. She noticed the strain around my eyes before I said a word. You look like you are carrying something sharp, she said gently. I laid the folder on the table between us. They are giving my work to someone else. Dottie flipped through a few pages, her brows tightening. Document everything, all of it. If they want to rewrite the story, make sure you have the original. Her certainty steadied me in a way I had not expected. That evening, while heating a pot of soup, I opened my phone again. Lenora had posted a public message feeling grateful for my incredible mother-in-law. She has been our anchor through difficult times. No mention of me, not even a shadow. I did not comment. I did not call. I only placed my printed papers neatly into a larger envelope and set it on the kitchen counter. The truth was no longer something I needed to hide. I just had not decided when to let it breathe. The next day, Lenora called. Cheerful and rehearsed. Mom, we are hosting a family appreciation dinner for Beatrice next month. Everyone will be there. You should come. Her voice was bright. Mine was steady. And a different story, my story had already begun to gather in my hands. They planned a celebration for the wrong woman and expected my silence to be the final guest. I walked into the downtown Portland venue without announcing myself. The room shimmered with gold linens and tall glass centerpieces. The kind of grandness Beatrice adored. No one noticed me slip into a seat near the back. Lenora was at the front, greeting guests with a smile so polished it almost looked borrowed. Graham spotted me first. His eyes widening, he whispered something to Lenora, but she didn't turn. Not yet. Beatrice took her place at the podium, a small handkerchief pressed delicately to her chest. "I am humbled," she began, "to be honored by this wonderful family. When Lenora and Graham were going through difficult times, I simply did what any devoted mother would do." A soft murmur of admiration moved through the crowd. Lenora glowed. Someone dimmed the lights, and a slideshow flickered onto the screen. Photo after photo showed Beatrice on their porch, accepting flowers from Lenora, posing with paperwork as if she had personally saved their home. Each caption praised her generosity, her leadership, her unwavering support. My stomach tightened, but my hands stayed still on my lap. Halfway through the presentation, Lenora finally looked toward the back of the room and saw me. Her smile faltered for a single heartbeat before she lifted it back into place. Graham leaned in to whisper, "She came." But Lenora kept her eyes forward, as if looking directly at me might crack the story she had built. Beatrice continued, "I have always believed that true strength comes from stepping in when others cannot." She gave Lenora a proud nod. "And I am grateful they trusted me." A few guests turned toward me, curious, confused, not enough to challenge the narrative, but enough to feel the imbalance in the room. My hands tightened around the envelope inside my bag. The weight of it, the truth of it, felt heavier than ever. I could stand and walk out, or I could stand and finally step into the space they had carved me out of. The decision waited at the edge of my breath, pulsing with certainty. The room went quiet the moment the numbers replaced Beatrice's smiling face. The projector flickered, cutting off her final photo mid-laugh. In its place appeared a simple line of text, "Rent payments, 4 years." A timeline unfolded beneath it, each month marked with a green check. People leaned forward, murmuring. Beatrice lowered her handkerchief. Lenora's breath caught loud enough for the guests beside her to hear. Graham whispered, "No, no, this is not happening." But it was. I had placed the envelope in the technician's hands before the event started. "Just play it when the slideshow ends," I had said. My voice had been steady then, too. The next slide appeared blurred screenshots of messages. Lenora's words were unmistakable. "Mom, please, we cannot lose the house. Just this once. I swear. If Graham finds out I asked again, I will die of shame." The whispers grew sharper, like fabric tearing. More slides, copies of receipts, payment confirmations, bank transfers from my account straight to their landlord. Every line was dated. Every amount spelled out in full words. Every month accounted for. Lenora stood abruptly. "Turn that off. This is a mistake. My mother, she is confused." Her voice shook so hard she couldn't finish the sentence. Beatrice stiffened, face draining of its practiced warmth. "Marietta," she said quietly, "I do not understand what you think this proves." "It proves," Graham whispered, "that we should have told the truth." I stepped forward. My knees trembled, but my voice did not. "I don't want applause," I said. "I want the erasing to stop." A ripple moved through the room. People looked at me. Really looked, maybe for the first time all evening. Lenora reached toward me. "Mom, please, we can talk about this privately." "No," I said. "Privately is how you hid me." I walked to the head table, placed my hand on the empty chair reserved for me, and pushed it back from the table. The scrape echoed through the hall. "I won't sit in a place you only prepare when you want my silence," I said. "Not anymore." Lenora collapsed into her seat. Graham covered his face. Beatrice stared straight ahead, expression hollowing. I turned and walked out of the room slowly. each step carrying more weight than the last and lifting some, too. Behind me, the projector froze on one final number: total paid 4 years of rent. And no one could pretend they didn't see it. 2 days after the dinner, the knock at my door sounded like something overdue. I opened it to find Lenora and Graham standing on my porch. Lenora's eyes were swollen, her breath uneven. Graham held a folded paper in his shaking hand. "Mom," Lenora whispered, "please let us in." I stepped aside without a word. The moment the door closed, she broke. "Our landlord gave us a 3-day notice," she said, thrusting the paper toward me. 3 days? Mom! We thought the payments were still going through. Graham rubbed his forehead. We did not expect you to cancel. We thought you just needed space. I kept my voice calm. I told the truth. That was the space I needed. Lenora tried to hold herself together, but her voice cracked. We went to Beatrice. She said no. Graham nodded miserably. She said, "I will not pay for lies you told in my name." She looked furious. Marietta. She said we humiliated her. The first genuine honesty I had heard from him in years. Lenora reached for my arm. "Mom, please. Just until we figure things out. Restart the payments. We cannot lose the house. You already lost it," I said softly. "The moment you handed my sacrifices to another woman." Lenora shook her head violently. I was stupid. I was trying to impress her. She made me feel like I had to choose, and you chose, I replied. Graham swallowed hard. Beatrice encouraged the comparison. Marietta, she knew it got under your skin. She wanted Lenora to rely on her. I should have stopped it. I am sorry. His voice was sincere, broken, but sincere. I took a slow breath. You two built a story where I did not exist. Now the truth has a price. Lenora collapsed onto my couch, covering her face. We cannot afford this rent without help. We cannot move again. Please, Mom. No, I said. I will not save you this time. She looked up, stunned. Choices have rent too, I said. And this time, you will pay yours. Lenora's shoulders folded inward. The first real crack, painful, raw, human, finally broke through the pride she had been hiding behind for years, and the consequences she had outrun for so long finally caught up to her. My daughter once said I was not half the woman her mother-in-law was. She was right, because I had spent too many years being a fraction of myself. Lenora and Graham moved out of their rental 3 weeks after the notice expired. Their landlord did not extend mercy twice. They found a smaller apartment on the edge of Gresham, far from Beatrice's spotless world. Lenora hated the drive. She hated the small windows. She hated the way Beatrice stopped answering her calls. She says she cannot be associated with people who embarrassed her. Graham told me over the phone. His voice held no anger, only exhaustion. In the days after the dinner, donors from Beatrice's charity circle shared clips and whisper threads online. All that praise for nothing. Someone wrote, "Imagine claiming credit for another woman's sacrifice." Beatrice retreated from every board she once dominated. I made my own quiet move. I met with the landlord and filed a notarized declaration. It listed every rent payment I had made. Every month, every amount spelled out. He read it carefully. "You want this in your file permanently?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "So no one rewrites it again." I updated my will next. Lenora would not inherit a cent until she completed therapy and financial counseling with signed proof. The lawyer raised an eyebrow, but nodded. "Clear expectations make cleaner futures," he said. For the first time in years, my days belonged to me. I joined the senior rowing group on the Willamette River, my arms aching in the best possible way. I taught budgeting classes at the community center, guiding women who reminded me of myself decades ago. I built friendships steady, warm, without performance. One morning after rowing, Dottie Ruiz handed me a thermos of tea. You look lighter, she said. I finally stopped disappearing. I replied. The air felt different around me, open, steady, earned. I had not become half of anything. I had simply stepped into the whole of who I always was. If this story touched you, like it, share it, or leave a comment. I read every one,